Welcome to the Mental Fitness Podcast. Today's entrepreneurs are mental athletes that have to know about the mind and how to keep it fit. Our goal is to increase our resilience against stress and anxiety, optimize our productivity, motivation, and optimism by learning about the human mind through psychology, neuroscience, and human behavior. I'm your host Ozan. I'm a founder who has experienced the challenges of launching and growing a business and a keen student of human behavior over the last 15 years. I'll share with you what I know and learn. Hundreds of impactful, behavior-changing ideas are waiting to be discovered by us. Let's begin now. Hello and welcome to the Mental Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Ozan, and we'll talk about intuition and when is intuition good and when it is bad. This is actually very clear. If you have certain expertise and enough number of quantitatively big sample of experiences within a certain topic, then your intuition actually is a very valid way of making decisions, or at least taking part in your decisions before you fact check it and talk with other people. On the other hand, if you are facing with a certain situation in which you don't have enough of a big enough sample size of different experiences, situations, stories, then probably you should not rely on your intuition because it will most likely divert you to the wrong path. And this is the core of this idea. And there are different areas of application because some areas of knowledge are transferable to others, whereas some others are not. For example, let me give a personal example. I was interested in psychology and sociology as long as I have known myself, and this is understanding human behavior. It was an area of passion for me. So when it came to seeking a job, I've actually decided to work in a field in which I could double down on this. And not at first. I first worked in an institution that provided psychological consultancy services, then in an institution where we did market research. Then I worked as an executive recruiter and researcher. But in my fourth big company job, corporate job, I was working as a tech recruiter who was focused on the interviewing aspect with senior profiles for the company, for the telecommunications company I was working at. And my role was to actually have these in-depth conversations with people. I had quite a big room of maneuverability and flexibility in how I managed the recruitment dialogue, because we were not using a very strict formalized way of interviewing the people, and I myself am quite skeptical about this competency-based interviewing techniques where you ask people questions that sound very plastic, like tell me about a time when you faced a certain problem and how you resolved that, or tell me about a time in which you looked at complex data and made a meaningful conclusion. And I find these questions that are like exam questions, and they force the interviewee to be very synthetic, very plastic as well. So I don't think it works out. My interviewing style was quite liberating, and I went into in-depth conversations with people to understand who they are. So this was an area, and I think I've done more than 5,000 interviews, and I sometimes still do for a variety of reasons. And this is, for example, an area that I generalize, controlled generalization, which is what I can actually call it. I generalize, and I say to myself, you know what? I can actually use my intuition with people decisions. Not so. As you can see, it was so the experience itself, the in-depth experience I had was within recruitment. But I'm going out and saying I can actually expand the borders of this know-how and expertise, and I can say, you know what, I can generalize and I can use my intuition with people decisions in companies on things like whom to partner with, right? what to focus on when building a team culture. Again, using intuitions when somebody I work with, my associates, my partners are not feeling very well, and I use my intuition with these areas. On the other hand, I have very limited experience, to be honest, with startup funding, because I have built 5 businesses to this date, but all of them were bootstrapped, or they had the goal of being bootstrapped rather than working with institutional VCs and investors, because I thought it was not a path I wanted to pursue. So it would be meaningless for me, almost destructive in my case, to try to use my intuition while making a decision to whether or not seek investment when I'm in a new project with a partner, or how would we go about seeking that investment. So this is an area that I don't know about, so I don't use my intuition. So this is the core idea. It is relatively simple, but a very strong idea that if you can implement this within your life, within your decision-making processes, it will actually elevate your decision quality by quite a bit. Now, as an exercise, think of this as a training in our mental gym. Look at the areas that you've had experience, exposure, expertise with, and jot down, open up an A4, a clean blank sheet of paper, and jot down 3 areas that you trust your intuition the most. And these 3 areas should come from, as I said, experience. So if I go and look at that A4 and challenge you, why is this an area that you trust your intuition with? The answer cannot be because I feel my decisions are really solid within these areas. I've always been right. The fact that you've always been right has actually zero value, because everybody thinks like that until they make a mistake. It's so in terms of risk management and understanding how human mind works, that is not a good way to look at that. But look at the amount of the sample of experience, expertise, different situations that you were faced in, and areas that you've both been correct with and that you have made mistakes with. And by the sheer volume of your exposure, pick those 3 areas that you think your intuition will serve you right. And then on the other side of that A4, pick 3 areas that you do not trust your intuition, or you have no solid reason to trust your intuition with. And these areas are areas that you need to rely on data. You need to actually talk to more people, get more feedback, do more research, find more comparison and data points, and try to run small experiments so that if you fail early and you fail cheap rather than late and big. So to repeat that, intuition is good. Without intuition, an entrepreneur is lost. I honestly feel like that. And it goes back to our idea of experimentation is good, but knowing what to do is great, that we've talked in the previous episode. So intuition is good, and it can even be great, but you need to know, you need to have a conscious internal map of areas in which you will rely on your intuition and areas in which you'll stay away. How much the tendency for that is irrelevant. There should be areas that you will stay away. How much you want it from your intuition, and rely on critical thinking, rational, analytical decision making, problem solving, talking about other people, and gathering more data when you're making a decision. So this is one of those short and sweet episodes, I guess. This is a framework that I always use. Hope this is useful for you as well. I really enjoyed this, and take care. I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye bye.